Pearle. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen, Highway Commissioner, and Cemetery Commissioners meeting being held at the Dudley Municipal Public Library. First order of business, as usual, is rise for Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, the Board of Selectmen, on behalf of the townspeople and the board, send our sympathies to firefighter Roy, Mr. Fire, who tragically died fighting a fire recently. And as everyone knows, firefighters run to the trouble when most people are running away. We certainly extend our complete sympathies and condolences, and we thank Fire Chief and EMS Kochanowski for representing Dudley Fire well in aiding Worcester with station coverage and all the needs that they had the past week. Chief, want to add anything?
What's that?
Want to add anything?
No, just we had, we covered Saturday, 8 a.m. to Sunday morning, 8 a.m. It was a 24-hour operational period. There was companies from all over the district. Our ladder truck, along with myself, covered the Grove Street Station. I covered the North End District. There's North End District Chief and the ladder truck covered the North End as well. The guys did a great job, but they always do, so.
Thank you, Chief. Yeah. First up, we'll do acceptance of minutes. 12/3/2018. What's the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the minutes of 12/3/18 as written.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Executive session minutes, 12/3/2018. What is the board's pleasure?
You want them, Greg, approved and not released, or approved and released?
I would suggest that they be approved and not released.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made to approve and not release due to ongoing issues, and second. Any further comments or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. At this time, with the board's pleasure, we have our local state senator and state representative who are present. And rather than make them sit through what can only be described as a long licensing process, I would ask that we move Senator Ryan Fatman and Representative Peter Durant up in the agenda to come forward.
You're a kind chairman.
Well, one hand washes the other. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Thank you.
This was sort of at the behest of Mr. Josephs, but I would classify it as like a semi-annual or once a quarter minimum appearance that you gentlemen come before us. So,
Yeah, updates and
what's going on in
achievements.
the world.
You want to do that first?
I will let the senior member of the delegation go. He's only senior by 6 months.
What, an age?
That's true.
That's
Age or
it.
service?
Well, so I decided to go with service.
Certainly not age.
I decided to go with service. I thought this might be easier for me.
Though I will say with 2 children these days, I'm aging quickly, so I'm catching up. My son is proving at 7 months that he doesn't like to sleep too much anymore. But thank you for inviting us before you. It's always a pleasure. And, you know, thank you for your comments about firefighter Roy. I was not able to be there. Unfortunately, my wife was, and she talked a lot about how emotional of dedication and funeral it was. She had to deal with the child who's 9 years old, and because that falls under the family and probate court. So she went there to pay her respects. But we're winding down the legislative session. That will end on January 1st at midnight, and we have both been reelected and will serve starting January 2nd, 2019, and look forward to coming before you again, probably before the budget season, so that we get an understanding of your local priorities, anything we might be able to help out with, on a budgetary level that perhaps the town is looking to seek investment for, perhaps a capital item, that, you know, we could get $50, $100, $200,000 in this budget to relieve the tax base for the town of Dudley and its residents. You know, looking forward to the legislative session, the good news, I think, is the budgetary picture has improved over where it was when we first started in this session. You know, when the governor was inaugurated into office, there was $1 billion budget shortfall. There was a $600 million current operating deficit at that point as well. So you're looking at $1.6 billion, which is a significant amount of money. Today, you know, you fast forward 4 years, we're at $1 billion surplus. The revenues just came in about, I think, $430 million over what was benchmark. And this is really optimistic and positive results. I think it partially has to do with a good economy. Though if you look at some economists in Massachusetts, they're also saying tread very carefully because they think in the next year the economy will slow down, which will inevitably have impact on revenues. I know for me, some legislative priorities moving into this next 191st session is, as it always has been, first and foremost, local aid. And that takes many forms. You know, one form that it takes, and I was reminded driving here, is Chapter 90 money and roads and bridges, and making sure that cities and towns in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts have access to that money as quickly as possible so that they can improve their roads and make sure that there's efficient driving. And second, and probably foremost, is education and local aid, unrestricted general government aid. Has been a major priority. I was very proud that the state Senate took up the Chapter 70 reforms that have been being waited for such a long time. I voted in favor of those, and I think the biggest disappointment is that this didn't get done this session. You know, it got to the final step, and members of the House and the Senate, you know, the conference committee couldn't agree, which a lot of people expressed their disappointment, including myself. I want to make sure that reimbursement for special education is funded at the full 75%. You know, that circuit breaker, especially with communities like Dudley and Charlton and others that I represent, when, you know, special ed children enter these districts, it's a very expensive endeavor. And when the state fails to meet its commitments on promises that they've made for decades, I think that that's a shame. And the same is true of regional transportation. So one of the arguments I've made consistently that I'm going to continue to make up on Beacon Hill is it's not just the Chapter 70 reforms, it's also carrying through with the promises that have been made decades ago when we incentivized communities like Dudley Charlton to regionalize transportation in school on the idea of creating economies of scale, saving money, and then they don't give you the funding like they promise. Those are where I would like to see opportunities with this increased budget. We had put an idea on the table called the LIFT Act, which would have funded about $275 million worth of that education spending that, you know, they estimated about $1 billion. And if it had been enacted when we took it up in 2016, you know, we would be $750 million approximately into that. But unfortunately, that wasn't enacted. I also see opioid and substance abuse addiction as a major problem and something that I'd like to continue to work on and I think is a major priority for me. And lastly, you know, I've worked with Chief Wayner over the course of the months after Officer Michael Chesna's death, you know, looking at how we can make our communities a safer place to live, both for police and fire and first responders. And, you know, for me, I think that one of the elements when we did our research, we're looking at judicial accountability. You know, since 1781, there's been 3 judges in the Commonwealth that have lost their job for various scandals. That's, you know, over 240 years of history. And, you know, only 3 have been held accountable. And there's been some questionable decisions made by judges recently that I think there has to be a better system of checks and balances. So Chief Weiner and I had met several times with Ann Goby, the state senator from Spencer, and I know Peter is supportive of this effort as well. Jen Casey, the governor's counselor, talking about trying to implement a 5-year review of judges so that they would go back before the governor's council and have to account for decisions that they've made, and perhaps by a supermajority, 6 out of the 8 members, that they could be removed from office as well. We don't want to infringe upon the independence of the judiciary. We know that there's co-equal branches of government between the executive, the legislature, and the judicial branch. But at the same time, when you look at the checks and balances on the backside of accountability for the judiciary, there isn't that many. And it's a very antiquated process. And in today's society, I think, where accountability is really important, there needs to be a revisiting of that. And that's something that we wrote an op-ed about and are going to actively pursue. The last thing I'll say, reason why I wasn't able to attend the funeral for the firefighter was this is Wreaths Across America week, and that pays homage to our veterans who served and lost their lives at the Christmas holiday season. And I was on Saturday in the town of Bellingham and Uxbridge laying wreaths at various memorials. This was actually a wonderful tradition that was started by my predecessor, Richard Moore, and something that I've continued. And we're coming to Webster Dudley to do that on Wednesday to make sure that we honor the people who have served us and lost their lives, paid the ultimate sacrifice, to make sure that we honor the people who are currently serving or who have served, and also just to express our thanks for our freedoms, which are unique to this country in many ways, and something that we're blessed to experience. And Mr. Joseph, I will say that I know the physical challenges you currently have. To watch you stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance means a lot to me. My brother is in the U.S. Army. He's training to be a helicopter pilot. And so my whole world, he'll go to Afghanistan at the end of 2020 as a helicopter pilot. And, this is something that I think is really important to highlight, because so many people are willing to pay the ultimate sacrifice to make sure we can have this meeting, talk here tonight, and do so without any sort of repression whatsoever. And that's a truly wonderful thing. So we'll be taking that up on Wednesday at 2 o'clock, starting in Webster and then coming here to Dudley. And I said it was the last thing, but I want to give a shout out to Lisa Patrock from Dudley Middle School, because she had invited me to this Marching of the Gifts, which she has done for at least 2 decades, I believe. And it's always exciting to be with her, because you see these young Dudley Middle School students who have either contributed by their families giving gifts, or contributed by helping wrap the gifts, or by marching these gifts onto a truck to be delivered to over 300 kids who, quite frankly, may not have parents at this Christmas season. Many of them are under the care of DCF. Some of them are foster care and have families that may have a difficult time affording gifts for them. And Lisa has taken that mission up and executed it year after year, and she deserves a great deal of thanks for her efforts, as do the Dudley families who participated, and the students as well. So thank you for allowing me to speak, and I'll turn it over to my friend and colleague, Peter.
Thanks, Senator.
I'm going to be very brief. Look, I think Ryan and I, Senator Fatman and I line up very well on a lot of issues, and I think that benefits the town of Dudley and the district as a whole. Our importance of local aid in education has transcended both the Senate and the House throughout our terms here. So those are the things that we're working on, and the things that we'll continue to work on as we go through here. I think Ryan touched upon just the state of the economy here in Massachusetts, which is doing very well. One thing that we just found out yesterday, I think it was yesterday, that we will have an income tax decrease this year to 5.05, because we've hit those different benchmarks that take place, and it's about 5 different items that have to be hit along the way. So we're doing very well here in the state, but as Ryan said, we take that with a grain of salt, because we do expect that there'll be a slowdown here. We're 9 years into a great run, and so we expect that's not going to last forever. So I think you kind of make hay while the sun shines, and we try to consolidate when things get a little bit worse. But right now we can do it, and it's something that we're working on. So yeah, be happy to take questions.
1 minute.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Joseph.
Thank you.
Yep.
Senator Fatman, thank you for the comments. I think there's only one way to address the Pledge of Allegiance or the Star-Spangled Banner, and that's on your feet. And if you haven't got to, then stand on the one you got. Let me ask you both a couple of questions. How do you monitor what goes down or what's going on in the towns that you represent?
How do we monitor it? Well, we listen to you. We listen to those board members.
But you're only here twice a year, so how do you monitor outside of those two towns?
Well, I think we look to the people who are local and who are on the ground. So it's whether it's the select board, whether it's, I'm thinking of some of my other towns, the conservation commissions, those commissions, those board members that need some help, need some input. Of course, we monitor the news, give us some information as to what's happening, but mainly it's, for myself, it's the people that we talk to locally in town.
Historically, you know, for me, it's been a combination of things. Holding office hours in the town. Most of the time I hold them over at Dippin' Donuts. That is mostly because I know the woman who owns it, and she's a family friend with my wife's family. You know, the Greeks and the Albanians, they stick closely together. And I was in a wedding with her son, and he was, I forget what they call it, it's a Greek best man. But anyways, last time I was there, I was actually having coffee with Chief Wayner, because it was coffee with a Copt egg, and what better person to have coffee with than the head of the Massachusetts Police Chiefs Association. And you know, so Chief Wayner's been a great resource, and talking about various issues that have gone on. Greg obviously is a great resource for us in letting us know, you know, what's happening on us as a fire chief, and you know, going to events like with Lisa Patrock. Lisa told me about some kids in this town that are having some challenges this year, and where we might be able to help out in particular. Then a lot of times we get people who call our office on a daily basis, you know, who are asking for our help. It's one of the reasons why I like to do office hours. If I can't be there, if Peter can't be there, we will typically have a staff member there.
What do you understand the needs of the town of Dudley? What do you understand the Dudley town needs to be?
You know,
Go ahead.
so, you know, one example I know was when Greg Desto was the superintendent of schools, he had called me up and said that they were looking for a new, of course, a generator for the school because it had failed. And that the school committee was interested in trying to find state resources to help out with that. So before he had left, I had said, you know, when the budget comes up in 2019, I'll make sure that we
And that's in the budget?
pursue that for the upcoming budget.
Are there any other needs that either of you are aware of?
We get a lot about Quinnebog Trail. You got some people in this town who are recreationalists that really enjoy that. And we were, I believe it was either 50 or, I believe it was $50,000.
Well, we've gotten a lot of, we've gotten small earmarks, I think nearly every year for Quinnebog, 25 here, 50 here,
Yeah.
50 there, things like that.
And I actually, for me at least, and each person's experience is different, but that happened through office hours. You know, the two guys and a gal showed up, and they actually introduced me in 2015 to the Quinnebog Trail because I was not familiar with it. And so I've been able to go down there and, you know, kind of explore with my wife and my dog. We left the kids at home.
Just a nice thing to do.
Yeah.
That's the nice thing. Is there any, you talked about speeding up the flow of funds from chapter 70 to the towns. Can
I don't know
either
about
one of you?
I don't know about speeding up. I think trying to augment those funds that we have, certainly add to them.
I'm sorry, I thought Ryan said that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
How do you do that?
well,
Do you have the power to do that, the authority to do that?
the governor is actually, I think the first good step that's happened is the governor's put $50 million into
By the way, he's done a great job.
Yeah, I would
He
agree.
has.
And one of his commitments was trying to take on this challenge So he put a down payment in 2 budgets ago, and it's now come through for a 3rd time in the recent supplemental budget that was passed October 16th, I believe. And it was $50 million for the healthcare portion of the Chapter 70 reforms. Because that one of the, I think, the biggest criticisms of Chapter 70 is this has existed since 1993. We're many years since then, and things in society has changed drastically. One of the things that has driven the costs of education and all services is healthcare. The ratios are based off 1993 numbers, and those numbers have not changed. And so therefore, if the ratios don't change, the funding mechanism is insufficient. The governor put forward $50 million the last 3 budgets, and I said in October it was a supplemental budget, which actually increased it another, I believe it was 50, but off the top of my head, I'm not sure. That is also balanced with other challenges that I think are existing that maybe weren't on people's radars as much. How much of a threat, I'm not sure, but maybe the chief could speak to this. There was $75 million put in there as well for security for school districts.
Let me interrupt, which
Sure.
I'm prone to do,
No
only
problem.
so nobody here has a birthday before we adjourn the meeting. Right? That, do you know what town was the first town to draw attention to the state funding formula as being flawed and a, quote, cockamamie formula? You know what town?
Yeah, you made me file the bill for it.
It's a dead giveaway.
We were in this room.
Exactly,
when it
yes,
first came up,
exactly.
remember? We were in this room.
That's not really much of a trick question.
I don't think I was.
didn't intend it.
No,
to
you
be,
were.
right? But I want you to know that the town of Dudley is more progressive than what people give it credit for. Some of the things we ask for are minor, others are not. Do you recall the time that I asked you, I told you, about the 1928 Massachusetts license
course.
plates?
I just had one in my hand
That
today.
had the codfish on it.
Yeah.
All right, and then they were eliminated the following year because the codfish was heading the wrong way. And I said, could you file legislation?
Mhm.
Because that would be a no-brainer with the House and the Senate. Did you ever file that legislation?
As I told you at the time, that would be a late file legislation, and then we'd file it at the next session, which
Did
will
you
happen.
late file it?
No, I told
Okay.
you that we'd do it in the next session, which would be in January of 2019.
Oh, no.
You can
Oh,
go and
no.
look. I'm
Oh,
sure
no.
I did.
Oh, no, it would have been this year. But
Well, this year was not a new session. You know that the sessions are 2 years long.
We talked quite a while ago about filing that bill. Never heard a word back from you.
That's not true. We talked again about it at one of these meetings.
We didn't talk about it.
We talked
I
about it
asked
at
you
one
a
of these
question. But
meetings.
You know what? Let's not argue beyond what we have to.
No, we're not arguing. We're just making sure that we get the
Oh,
facts
okay.
straight.
Let's not discuss it too far.
Okay.
But I'm telling you, the fact is, nothing's been filed, nothing's been mentioned.
I would not say
Do you
that that's
have
the
a
fact at
co-sponsor
all.
in the Senate? Do you have a co-sponsor in the Senate?
I didn't
I
file
will.
it yet.
I'll be happy to
Don't bail them
co-sponsor.
out.
No, don't bail me out at all. I
Don't
didn't
bail
file
me out.
it yet
Okay.
because we talked about it.
Do you recall that we also talked with both of you about filing a couple of pieces of legislation that were of great import to the town? One to the average citizen and the other to the town. The first issue was the issue of trying to file legislation that would make the town of Dudley and maybe a few other towns more whole, who are penalized by having one of the bottom 5 or bottom 10 tax rates in the Commonwealth when Prop 2.5 went into effect. Do you remember that request?
Vaguely.
I do not.
Okay. I also told you that there were complaints that were coming in with great frequency from citizens and now has become a deluge, complaining about unwanted spam calls. Do you recall that?
I do. Yes.
All right. So I asked you if you would both see what you could do. Didn't hear anything for some months. So I asked this board to take a vote, to send the both of you a letter reminding you of what we're asking. According to Greg, he sent that letter. This board voted unanimously to send that letter to you. Greg has said that letter was sent, and yet we have still received no response. So let me just close it up. This is not Republican Democrat. I like both of you. All right? This is about credibility and blowing off the town. And my feeling is you're blowing off the town. As much as you may want to deny it, as much as you want to hit some talking points. All right? The fact is you've blown the town off, and I want to know, when is that going to stop?
I'm sorry you feel that way.
Don't be. I feel okay about it.
Well, then, I don't feel that way, so.
You don't think you have?
No, I think I've been responsive to this town.
You haven't responded to our questions, given verbally. You haven't responded to a letter from Greg.
I didn't say I was 100%
that you are
perfect.
responsible?
I didn't say I was 100% perfect, but I think I responded to this town very well.
Okay, I just want to make sure that it's understood that you two haven't done anything on those issues. And I, for one, am not asking on behalf of the board. I'm asking on behalf of myself, and the board took a unanimous vote. When are you going to respond to our needs?
I would like to see, if I may, Mr. Chairman, if you would outline those needs to me in a letter. Again. Well, look, Paul, I'm not going to go back and now I'm going to have to find a letter that I don't have a recollection of. So if you want to send me a letter and you want to put it in my hands, then I will be happy to respond to it. But I'm not going to sit here in a meeting and say, remember when, and I have no recollection of when, because my mind happens to not understand what you're actually speaking of. So I'm not going to sit here and say, gee, I remember this date occurred on some fictitious time. So I'm asking you to simply put it...
I'm asking you to remember what we asked and then what we followed up with in writing.
And Paul, you just put this out in front of you without giving me any heads up. So how am I supposed to...
Why do you need a heads up?
Because I would like to respond to your question.
Oh, you did. You say you don't remember.
Paul, if you put them in writing, I'd be happy to do it.
Okay, remember that goes both ways, my friend.
Which way does it go with you?
You're going to have to write back to us.
All right.
And stay in touch and stop blowing us off.
Well, I don't feel I'm blowing you off, so
So yeah.
I'm here tonight to listen to your
That's because we got
concerns.
a camera going.
I would be...
Okay.
Paul,
When's
when's the last time we met in private, Paul?
You and I?
Yeah.
Not in private, we don't.
Okay.
Have you ever contacted anyone who's not a close affiliate of the Republican
Talk
Party?
to every one of these
In
gentlemen.
Dudley?
To every
Ask
one
them
of
their
these gentlemen.
opinions.
I talk to these gentlemen all the time.
There's a lot more people than just your Republican friends.
Well, you asked me if I just talked to these
In the
people. I
town
said,
of-
so you can't say that I can,
Did
do I
you
have to
hear me?
provide you with a list of
Did
people?
you hear me? There's a lot more people in the town of Dudley than just, by the way, these are all gentlemen. But beyond just your Republican friends.
Paul, you've never even called me to talk to me. So I find it difficult to believe that I'm not allowed to talk to you. When you ask if I talk to other people,
That's not true. I did call you on that codfish. I called you in your office.
was I there?
Yeah, I spoke to you.
Okay. When was that?
19 months ago?
Exactly.
Something
Exactly.
like that?
So you don't remember either. And you're asking me to remember specifics of something
No,
that
I'm not
occurred.
asking you to remember
Sure you are.
specifics. I'm asking you to remember what the hell we wrote in the letter to you.
You've asked me if I've talked to people,
Sent
and I've
by a
talked to
town
people, Paul.
administrator.
So I'm sorry, I'm just not interested in the
Don't feel
grandstanding that
you're feeling
occurs
out.
here.
You should know, and you should react to a letter from a board of selectmen written on their behalf by a town administrator.
Which I don't recall not doing, and maybe I have, but I don't recall not doing. I'm not perfect, Paul, but I'm not gonna sit here and grandstand, and hear some grandstanding that
Nobody's
says
asking you to be perfect.
that I haven't responded, or that I'm not responsible to this town, because I am.
Nobody expects you to be perfect.
Well, you do.
None? I'm sorry, you know what's in my mind now?
Well, you seem to be, that's the purpose we're here.
No.
That's the purpose that we're here this evening, so that you can get on camera and let the town...
I'm on camera every other week.
And the town of Dudley know that somehow we're not responding to you. That's what the purpose of this is.
That's why I want you here. I want you to respond to us. Not so people know. I've told people already. All right? There's nobody else I'm going to tell. But for that, so that you will respond to us and not blow us off. Sorry it's denigrated into that, but don't assume you know what's in my mind.
Well, don't assume that you understand what's up
Don't
in my
assume
mind.
you know what's in my mind. I'm not asking you to be perfect. Far from it.
So,
Could I, not that I want to belabor any points, but I appreciate the constructive criticism, and we actually, in my office today, had a staff meeting with the people who work for me, and we went through all the criticisms that were levied against me, because unlike my friend here, he didn't have a campaign and I did. And, you know, I said, hey, you know, maybe there's some legitimate points out there that we should do self-reflection on. And, you know, we did that, and we talked about how we could address this thing or that thing, and, you know, so we're planning on doing them. You know, one of the things that we talked about was office hours and making sure people know about when we hold office hours so that they can actually show up. And, you know, we're gonna do robocalls. So when I come to town in Dudley, I'm gonna do a robocall out to the entire town. Now, the problem this will have is the point you were making about spam calls, and I hope people will be willing to accept them. But we also talked about that subject too, because I've heard from a lot of people about these calls, and I you know, we went away one weekend, came back and had 21 voicemails on our answering machine, and there was not one of them was important, to be honest, and it's
People are
frustrating.
at the end of their lives.
Yeah,
They really are, with
Yeah.
these spam calls. And we deal with a lot of homeless, needy, and senior citizens in the Backpack Brigade, the Blessed Backpack Brigade. And I could give you the names of 3 seniors in the last 8 months that have been spammed and lost money.
yeah,
It's constant. We've got to try to protect people, and not just seniors, but anybody that gets these calls. Oh, yeah, constantly. You must get them at home.
yeah.
No, how do we do that?
But I'm proud, you know, I've been to a lot of people's homes in this town, knocked on a lot of people's homes. I got the holes in my shoes to prove it, and a lot of nice people live in this town and have welcomed me in, and you got about 13%, a little less, 12% registered Republicans, you got about 25% registered Democrats, and the rest are independents. And
Reach out to the Democrats. I think you'll find them surprisingly supportive of good efforts.
well, my point was I got 64% of the vote in this town. I'm very proud of that, and I know that they weren't all Republicans. I know that they definitely weren't all Democrats, and there was a lot of a coalition between. So I'm going to try to continue to earn that confidence and work hard to do it. I know Peter will too.
so I was just gonna say, but I'm gonna echo Paul, I say I don't speak for the whole board. And we all talk with different constituents, we all, some overlap, we all have friends in town, or people that are in need. And to go back for a minute to the point Paul brought up, that you brought up about the next legislative session, wasn't there something at one point that you guys put forward, Peter, that died in committee on that Chapter 70 fund? I know we did this study, but you did act
Yeah.
on our request, and it died.
Yeah, we put those, I think there were 2 terms that we put that bill forward. And then the review commission came out with their findings. And it helped to address some of the things that we were talking about. So we were hopeful that the review commission's recommendations would kind of come together, and some legislation, as Senator Fenton said, died in the 11th hour. So I think some of those things and some of those concerns that the town had were made up, not 100%, but were made up in that legislation. So we had filed that, I think it was in 2 separate sessions.
Right, 'cause I do recall last year at the regular town hall meeting room, that you did speak about that, both were there. Actually, you weren't there, I think your aide was, but he did have some points that you want to have brought up, and it was something that was trying to be put forward, and had been
Yeah.
11th hour defeat. And I can speak for myself, I'm part of that coalition, as Senator Fatman said, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, I'm unenrolled. You guys, no secret, my son worked as an unpaid intern for both you guys, and he leaned slightly further left than most, so I think I'm somewhere between the left and the right wing. But both you gentlemen, in my opinion, are very visible in the community. Goes beyond the Strawberry Festival, which was a huge community event that everybody's at. I see you guys, I don't see you in person, I see pictures, Eagle Scout things, church festivals, true community events, and I know Paul's active with the Blessed Backpack, and nothing slows him down. Like I said, we all see different constituents. But from my, again, not for the board, from my perspective, I think both you gentlemen and your staff are very proactive and responsive to my concerns. I mean, I can call either one of you folks, I can call your office, I get a call back. So, I sense Paul's frustration, because I get some of the same complaints, and I know some it's out of your hands. I mean, I work for the post office. I can't tell you how many times I see letters from foreign countries coming as registered. I go to deliver it, and the person goes, I don't know what this is, and they open it right in front of me. It's a spam letter. You know, you've won the Nigerian lottery, or whatever, you know, pick a country, just
Send me your social security number.
send us $5,000 and you'll get $500,000. And we can't, we have trouble stopping it.
Yeah.
And we have a lot more resources in the postal service than the state of Mass, but that's just my take on things. Other board member comments?
I know you've introduced legislation about Chapter 70 that's died twice. Do you plan on reintroducing it in this legislative session?
Well, I think that, I think the Chapter 70 Review Commission takes care of a lot of the issues that towns have concerns with. The question is, are we going to implement them? I mean, we're certainly happy to refile that, but I think you have a better chance at getting the Review Commission's recommendations put into law. I think what we're going to see is some of these things go through again, and hopefully we can push them past the final hour.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So I think your better shot, I'm happy to file it, but I think the better shot is to take the one that's kind of got the more broad support from everybody with that review commission and try to implement some of those.
Whatever the best shot is, whatever you can do.
And it got far. Like, I think that's what's so frustrating, probably, you know, for
Yeah.
both of us, but for a lot of people, and especially municipal officials, is this is something that started in 2011, you know, and the hearings and whatnot happened throughout up till about 2014. And then really, this past July, we voted on it for the first time in the Senate. It passed unanimously. The House voted on it. After that, it passed unanimously. And then it got down to the details where, you know, they were a little bit different. 3 members of the House, 3 members of the Senate, you know, and not that this matters too much, but I think it does. 1 in the House is a Republican, 2 are Democrats. 1 in the House, 1 in the Senate is Republican, 2 are Democrats. And there was a real urban-suburban battle that happened.
That's where it is.
And
That's what this
yep,
is.
the
Who's been on the
urban,
bad side of that?
This is what this is all about.
yeah,
right?
and the urban, you know, wouldn't capitulate. And my understanding, I don't want to assign blame because I don't think that helps anybody, but then did, and then the people said, up too late.
Yeah.
And the Boston Globe, you know, they wrote about it, the Herald wrote about it, you know, and those 6 people really got a lot of criticism for not being able to get the thing done.
Good,
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Maybe we'd be better off moving 495 a little west. Below the highway.
Well, I think that was the issue. If I recall, so I read the Globe generally every day. There were some more wealthy towns that have a much better or diverse tax base. Greg, probably a little more versed than I am working off memory, that get the funding to get money. I don't want to say they don't need it, because everybody needs help, but they have better means of support their operation through their budgets than we may, but they still receive a fair share from the state. And I understand that's the end, what should be the end result of this Chapter 70 overhaul or review, whatever you want to phrase it, with the conference committee. I seem to recall, like specific towns, but I'm not going to name them because I'll probably step on myself, but you're right, they're mostly inside the 128 Beltway or just outside, they're much more affluent.
Just to kind of follow up that question, the issue that I have is, I understand the fairness between urban and suburban, but if a community is not taxing to the Prop 2.5 limit, it means that they have local funds that they could dedicate toward education. Before state aid comes in Dudley's case, and I'm sure all of your communities will be taxed to the last available dollar under Prop 2.5, and I would hope that through any legislation that's being done, that piece is being looked at, because it's really unfair for a community like Dudley, which doesn't have the capacity to tax anymore, versus a community that leaves, so to speak, a lot of money on the table for political reasons, because they don't want to be able to tax to the Prop 2.5. That's the dilemma that I face and I see, and I know that all the communities in your district system will have done.
Yeah.
Mr. Master.
So, yeah, guys, thanks for coming in. You know, my opinion, we do talk probably more frequently than with most, just because I was chair last year, some of the, heavy issues that we were facing then, and just in campaign season and other type things. But I think you guys are working really hard. You do a great job. I want everybody to feel that, including you, Paul. So maybe we can get him to, it's true. I mean, I feel that we are being served, and I want everybody to know that. So, So again, just thank you for all you do. Keep doing it, and let's get Paul's questions in.
No, said, just to let everybody know, my thoughts are not irrational. There's a reason for them.
Can always do better.
Yes.
Otherwise you get elected 100%. So any questions for the rep and the senator from our department heads that are present? Police, fire, I see the acting library director here. Any questions?
Thank you for coming.
Library
Thank you for
legislative
having us.
breakfast is happening January 11th. January 11th in Webster.
Oh, for the
8 a.m., 8:30
Wish you
a.m.
both a Merry Christmas and
You
a
and
safe,
families.
happy, and healthy New Year.
Same to all
Same
of
to
you.
you.
All right,
Thank you.
Glad you're
guys.
feeling better.
thanks for coming.
Good night, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank everyone for allowing us to move the agenda around. Next up, appointment resignations. Deb Thibodeau, MIS Director, with a term to expire December 31st, 2019. What is the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we appoint Deb Thibodeau as MIS Director with a term to expire 12/31/2019.
Second.
Motion made second. Just one question. Greg, sometimes this comes up for people. Is the MIS position within the current workday, concurrent with the work hours?
It is, but she puts in a lot of additional time above and beyond. She pretty much is on duty 24/7 with MIS questions.
Point of information.
Sure, right. I mean,
That's irrelevant. She is salaried, not hourly. So whatever it takes, however long it takes her to do her first job and her second job in a given week is appropriate. She's salaried.
motion made and seconded to reappoint Deborah Thibodeau, MIS Director. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Next up, Dudley Police Reserves, terms expire 12/31/2019. The following officers: Officer James Rivera, Officer Robbie LaRue, Officer Paige Morose, Officer John Glowacki, Officer Anthony DiDonato, Officer Kristen Vegas, Officer Eric Gulkin, Officer Louis Pacheco, and retired Reserve Officer Shane DiDonato.
So moved.
Second.
With a term to expire 12/31/19.
Correct. Before I call to a vote, the only question I saw that was forwarded email chain was the last one. Does that designation as retired, that doesn't affect anything, right?
No, I think this was something that was brought up years ago, where people, if they qualified, were able to come back and work on a part-time basis. And so that's where he falls on the line, so he probably about the third or fourth one that fell into that category since that's been implemented.
Right, so he's not technically retired.
Well, I'm not sure what his status is with the retirement board itself, if he just froze everything there or something, because he still does have some eligibility there. I'm not sure what he's done with it, but he's basically been retired from our force is what it is at this point. So he's technically, I guess, either left service or separated service, but this is the category that we have, that we've created.
That other list we used to have former sergeants that were on there, former police chiefs.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, that's basically it, because we created the category basically after people retired, so we don't have something here as far as specials or anything else like that we put on. Yeah, so we created this category, so that's where he would fall in line there. And these are just the annual appointments. We appoint these officers on an annual basis, so this is the typical appointment.
Greg, you good with that?
Yeah, I'm good with that. There's no issue with the hours that he works.
All right. Motion made and seconded to appoint the above-mentioned officers. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you. Public comments, citizen comments, anyone wishing to speak that's not on the agenda tonight, speak now, forever hold your peace. Hearing none. Town administrator report, which will also include the acting highway superintendent.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen. First thing is, received notice from Bay Path High School, that they've gone ahead and trued up their budget, and as part of their budget truing up process, they have a savings to Dudley, which will total $17,349 for this fiscal year. So we'll consider that an available fund for town meeting in the spring, and this is not the first time that Bay Path has done this. I've been here for 4 years and they've done it twice, so I thank them because technically they could keep that money and we wouldn't hear a word. Instead, what they do is they return it back to the districts to reduce the assessment and the charges to the town, and that's very much appreciated. We have a road betterment public information session coming up this Wednesday. This is a result of the board wanting to bring forward the Circle Drive, Paul Lane issue, and I've had an opportunity with the highway superintendent to meet with some of the residents to hear what their concerns are, and I think the public information session is good. One thing I did prepare is a frequently or an FAQ, which I'll hand out at the meeting, and I'll kind of use as a guide to go through the process, because there's really not a lot of understanding out there in terms of what the road betterment process involves. So I'll go through this. I'm not going to go through it step by step with you tonight, but if you have questions about it and you want to or wish to attend, I welcome your presence. If not, we will go forward with the meeting on Wednesday. We will. Are we posted, Michelle? We're posted, but again, it's not necessary. I don't expect that the board will be taking any official action at that meeting, but you may want to be there only as an observer.
Mr. Joseph?
Did we send out letters to all people on private roads?
This particular street to start, and then going forward, we will send it to everybody, because this is specific to this project, and there are questions that are unique to this project, such as the right-of-way.
That makes sense.
We need to get done. We need to get resolved those issues.
Okay.
So this is front and back.
Quick, we also have to, sorry to interrupt, the issue that was brought up about the damaged piece of equipment. One of the, well, especially in Paul Lane, maybe it's more specific to them, was if we start damaging equipment on private roads, that those private roads are no longer see services.
The residents that I met with a week ago understand that, and that will be conveyed at the meeting. They're all understanding, but I think the group needs to hear that as a whole, and they need to hear that the mechanism for getting this road accepted to town standards is the betterment process. And I think it's a good program. The town adopted it. Town meeting in May of 2016, and we'll have an hour or whatever time it takes to answer all the questions coming up on Wednesday. That's it. And I'll go back on the snow and ice, because I noticed on the agenda, and then there is an item about community development fund application, which is a grant, also in the public business, and I'll speak on both of those later on.
All right, any questions of the town administrator on his report? Next up, around town, focus on local business. I know we have none, I think, we discussed once or twice after the holidays. I'd like to see that kind of pick up steam. I know we talked to Firebrands. When he was here, he seemed like he'd be interested. It'd be nice to get some of
The cheese people.
Yep, cheese people. We've been working on Gentex. I know Michelle's contacted a couple of times. It'd be nice to get large employers and, you know, medium-sized ones in to let us know what's going on in their world. Next up is licensing and permits, the change of manager and change of officer. Directors P&A of Dudley, DBA P&A 214 West Main. New manager James R. Madden. New director just as James Madden. I assume same person. Please come forward. At this time, I also make a public disclosure. I no longer have a conflict when it comes to alcohol-related issues. I've spoken to the administrator who has researched the issue for me. I'm no longer a paid employee of an establishment in town for over a year, so my conflict no longer exists.
Hallelujah.
All right.
Because again, I would say, problem with alcohol, and I say, no, it's not a problem with alcohol, it's voting on it. Mr. Madden, sir, I assume,
Yes.
yes, good to see you.
Same.
Right.
So you're both a new manager and a new director.
Yes, yes.
And did they fully inform you what was involved in accepting both positions?
They did, yeah.
And do you have any qualms about it?
I don't, no.
So this is a requirement of the ABCC. This is their request, and in the past, the P&A has been cooperative with us. and then kind of there's a change in the officers and the managers come in. Since it's what's called a social club,
Yeah.
you guys step in volunteer roles, I'm guessing? The board of directors serve in a volunteer capacity?
Yes.
That's why it comes before the board. I don't have any issue with it. The paperwork is here, and it's in order.
Okay, so, Mr. Matt, anything like that?
Excuse me?
Would you like to add anything?
No, that's,
Would you like to give us 2 reasons why we shouldn't approve this?
no.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Madden? Hearing none. Call the matter to a vote. All in favor of the request of change of manager, change of officer director of the P&A to new manager James Madden, new director James Madden. Motion will be accepted.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to change the manager and change of officer directors, the Polish National Alliance, Dudley Incorporated, DBA, P&A, at 214 West Main Street, new manager James R. Madden, and also new director James R. Madden.
Motion made.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Marcy. Any further questions for the applicant? Hearing none. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Joseph.
with the intent of brevity, I would like to ask that we approve the following liquor license renewals for 2019 as printed on our agenda. And for the sake of brevity, I will simply indicate the name of the business and what they do business as. All right? Larky, DBA Polish Guards, Club Jigger. Polish National Alliance, Dudley, DBA P&A. Charles Pappas, DBA Dudley Parking Shop. Flynn's Fine Wine and Spirits. Shiv Corp, DBA Patriot Gas. Tom V. Nien, DB and all, ETA of doing business as Quick Stop. Nesky Incorporated, DBA Marty's of Dudley. Dudley House of Pizza, J&S Blue Inc., DBA City's Pub. Dudley D&C Inc., DBA 21 West. J. Mini Corporation, DBA State Line Farms. 88 Bar and Grill, DBA Firebrands Bar and Grill. Rosemary Archangel Michael Inc., DBA Big Al's Pizza. Doldray Inc., DBA Drafters Sports Cafe. HW Restaurant Inc., DBA Yummy's Chinese Restaurant. Shri Dashama Inc., DBA West Main Street Liquors. And Dudley Links Operations LLC, DBA Dudley Hill Golf Course.
Motion made to accept the previously listed for liquor license renewal, seconded by Mr. Marcy. Any questions or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Next up, common victuals license category.
Mr. Chairman, I will follow Mr. Joseph's lead and for brevity and just read the names for the next. So I'll move that these, as printed, companies approve their license for 2019. 88 Bar and Grill, Inc., DBA Firebrands. Rosemary Archangel Michael, Inc., DBA Big Al's Pizza Plus. Dudley D&C, Inc., does business as 21 West. Jamie Corp., DBA State Line Farms. St. Philip here and St. Anthony, Inc., DBA Dudley House of Pizza. J&S Blue, Inc., DBA Cindy's Pub. Quick Stops. Shiv, DBA Patriot Gas. Polish National Alliance of Dudley, DBA P&A. Subway. Dunkin' Donuts. Cumberland Farms. Leone's Brick Oven Pizzeria. Sully's Dog Shack. Dudley Links Operations LLC, DBA Dudley Hill Golf Club. Doldray Inc., DBA Drafters Sports Cafe. HW Restaurant Inc., DBA Yummy's Chinese Restaurant. Jimmy's Pizza, Dippin' Donuts, and Sturbridge Coffee Roasters.
Second.
Motion made second. I just have one question to the town administrator. Is the Dunkin' Donuts designation of a location cover their drive-through also?
No, that was a separate location.
So it's not on here?
I don't know why, but they had to come and get a separate license for that location.
They submitted it?
Separate premises.
Have they submitted it?
I don't know off the top of my head. I know that they would have been granted a license when they opened up. What I'm not sure of is whether that license expires on the 31st or expires 1 year from the date of issuance. We'd have to go back and look at that.
So I guess the question becomes, if it doesn't, we don't meet before the end of the year.
So what I would suggest you to do is to approve that based upon submission and meeting all the administrative requirements for the license, and we'll put it in the office and have it signed rather than having a separate meeting.
So,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to change my motion to add the second Dunkin' Donuts location.
I think it's 10 less meeting.
Is it 10? I didn't know that.
I think 10 or
I don't-
something like that.
Yeah, okay, second.
The board good with that?
Yep.
All right, so motion made with the revision to include the other location upon completion of a properly submitted and paid for license application. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Orchestra entertainment amusement license for 2019 includes pool tables, jukeboxes, and video games.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Siganovich.
I'll take the lead of Ms. Mercy and Mr. Joseph. Just read the first two. Number one, DNC of Dudley, 21 West, Firebrands Bar and Grill, Lock Incorporated, DBA Club Jigger, Polish Alliance of Dudley Incorporated, DBA PNA, J&S Blue Incorporated, DBA Simmy's Pub, and finally, Doldre Incorporated, DBA Drafters Sports Cafe.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve as read. Any further questions or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Class 1 license, agents or seller license, new motor vehicles, 2019.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move that we grant the license for new motor vehicles from 2019 to Robert Solisky, DBA New England Choppers, and Sean and Michael McGee Incorporated, DBA McGee Toyota Dudley.
Second.
Motion made and seconded for the 2 licenses. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Class 2 license, used car dealer license, 2019.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to read these off. I'd like to make a motion to approve these licenses for 2019, Class 2s. Artpreneur, DBA Arts Auto Repair and Sales. Robert Dubois, DBA Dudley Motor Sales. Basilius Auto Sales. Robbins Auto Sales. Muriel Stelmack and William Stelmack, DBA 4 and 1 Motor Sales. James E. Audette, DBA Precision Auto Rebuilders. Henry and Sophia Silick, DBA Henry's Sales and Service. Michael Mayotte, DBA West Dudley Auto Sales. Andrew Lecanto, DBA A Lot of Cars, LLC. Robert Romer, JAR Services, Inc., DBA Romer Motor Coach. John McCarthy, DBA Affordable Auto Sales. Jack Nassif, DBA Nassif Enterprise, Inc. Anthony Simpson, DBA Simpson and Sons Auto Sales. Legal Auto Sales, Christine Brosnahan. SH Auto Repairs, LLC, Sebastian Helwig. Ziggy Automotive, Inc., Zbigniew Lasaka. Hero Cars, Mariusz Kalinowski.
Good for you.
Wow.
Motion made to
Second.
I should have read those before.
You gotta brush up on the Polish.
I think that's how you do it.
Any further questions or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Class 3 motor vehicle junk license for 2019.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Siganovich.
I'll take this long one. Sandra Sexton, proves used cars.
And what's your motion?
My motion is to grant the Class 3 motor vehicle junk license for 2019.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further questions or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Could you please, Mr. Chairman, indicate the 3
So,
that did not return or did not renew parts of their licenses?
I believe, yes, the following did not renew their license: STK Tavern, DBA Gaslight Cafe, Victoria Ann Lazo, DBA Dudley Golf Range, and Laurie Sullivan, DBA Sully's Dog Shack. So
And that was for their on-premise wine and malt only.
yes, and STK had the
Thank you.
all-encompassing, all-alcohol, common victualler, orchestra entertainment, video game, and pool table. Public business, public hearing, hearing, we have none. Public business. We already did A. B, revised town administrator job description. Greg, I had a chance to review online. I did not come up with any changes. Does anybody else have any questions or concerns they'd like to bring up first on the?
I just want to point out that when you look at it, the original job description was done back in 2006. It was a page and a half long. And I thought that to kind of get ahead up on the competition, you want to have a job description that encompasses everything. And what I did was I took certain things right out of the town administrative bylaw that was approved at town meeting. For example, if you look at page 3, and you look at the second paragraph, the second says recommends the appointment and may recommend the approval of the civil service law, any collective bargaining agreements may be applicable, department heads, officers, subordinates, employees, etc. I don't take any editorial privilege for that. I simply cut and pasted it right from the bylaw. But it was wherever I could cut and paste things that made sense from the bylaw, I did so. There are a couple of things that I would ask you to pay particular attention to when you do approve it, and that would be the qualification section. So beginning on the bottom of page 3 and going on to page 4, I did not fill in certain sections involving the years of experience. I feel the board really needs to work through that. Any other special education or training that you may feel are applicable. I thought I hit on the high points, but if you feel as though there are particular knowledge, skills, and ability you want to have in here, this would be the place to put it in. And like I said, I tried to take the approach like the commercial with the spaghetti sauce and put it all in here. So as much as I could think of with regard to the job and the job description, I put it in.
That was a Prego spaghetti.
That was Prego sauce.
It's in there.
It's in there. And then I included the 2 articles that kind of govern this thing, which is Article 22 and 23 and 24 at the most recent town meeting are here too. So please do peruse those. I think it's important that the job description, when you do advertise, is up to date and has been adopted by the board with any changes.
Mr. Massey?
Greg, when do we need to approve this by?
So my thought is this evening I would ask you to approve the suggested calendar dates that I handed out and I gave to you at the last meeting. The 2 dates that are really key and relevant this evening are to approve the posting date of January 18th and then the deadline for candidate resumes of February 22nd. I feel that a month is more than ample time, and I think those 2 dates kind of govern what happens after that Selectmen press.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Joseph?
I'm going to do some further review on the job description, especially qualifications. I know Greg has done a good job. I want to be sure that I'm comfortable with the qualifications. At this time, I would move that we approve on the suggested calendar for filling a replacement position for the town administrator, January 18, 2019, post internally and the Beacon and MMA, and then February 22nd, 2019 would be the deadline for acceptance of candidate resumes, and I would add the footnote that any mailed in resume postmarked after midnight on that date would not be accepted. That's what the 22nd means.
And Greg, just so we don't have a similar situation on a bigger scale than we did with the last highway
That was my
department
motion.
positions,
Second.
discussion. Just so we don't have a bigger issue like we did during the highway department issue where the person dropped it off at the wrong office and still granted an interview. Can we clearly state where we expect hand-delivered resumes only to be accepted?
That'd be fine, and I would hope that most of the candidates would have the ability to submit it electronically, and that therefore would make it very easy for us to distribute and have it available.
Mr.
And
Chairman?
if they can't do that, maybe they should be canceled.
Mr. Chairman, your point's well taken. could we have a separate motion regarding a clarification of the deadline for hand submitting resumes?
All right, okay, we'll accept the original motion was to accept the calendar as presented.
The first 2 dates.
Yeah. Nice night.
Motion made second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Now, since we did not include in that motion, at least I didn't hear it included, that any resumes mailed must be postmarked no later than midnight on February 22nd. Since I didn't hear that repeated, I'm assuming that was left off.
No, that was left in.
It was left in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Then I would make a second motion that any resumes hand-delivered or delivered by any means other than the United States Postal Service would have to be received by the close of business day on February 22nd
In the selectman's office.
in the Selectmen's office. Yeah.
Motion made and seconded to have any hand-delivered resume be received in the selectman's office at 2/22/2019, close of business.
Hand-delivered or received by any other means other than the U.S. Postal Service.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. So we need a motion, Greg, to accept the rest of the calendar?
No, I think that
No.
I think once you get going along, I think you go, you deal with those things, but at least the first 2 allow us to get the position going. So for the next meeting, what I'll do is, we'll put on the agenda the job description and also approval of the posting. So I want the board to review and approve the posting and keep this thing kind of moving, which is important.
Let me also point out, if I can, with permission, Mr. Chairman, that Greg, after the first 2 dates, the next 3 dates, I have some confusion. Is the date for that activity, the date on the left or the date on the right? Because there's discrepancies.
Yeah, so the date on the left is the date that the activity would begin, and the date on the right would be the date that that activity would be
That's a
completed.
different standard than the first 2.
Yes,
The first 2 are
yes, sir.
dates by which that's a different.
The other activities involve a range because they involve things such as candidate screening and interviews, and I wanted to give you a range because I feel it's important to kind of work within those dates. You never know when you're gonna get bad weather or meeting gets
Well, I would
canceled or
assume,
whatever.
Greg, that the beginning date would be the day that the other deadline, the previous deadline ends.
I think that's fair.
So I would ask you to just consider making the dates on the right and replacing the dates on the left with those dates on the right. Just to consider it, it's not asking you to do it.
Well, the 22nd is a Friday, I believe, right? So the 25th would be Monday.
22nd is a Friday.
We wouldn't be doing any screening. I mean, I guess it really doesn't matter. We're not going to be screening over the weekend.
No, that's why the dates are the way they are, so it allows you plenty of time to get through this.
Okay, I just think it's a little confusing, but okay.
Let the process begin. 2019 ABC Seasonal Population Increase Estimation Form sent to us by the ABCC, to whom it may concern. Acting under authority contained in MGL Chapter 138, Section 17, as amended, our board at a meeting held on December 17, 2018, estimates that the temporary increased residential population of Dudley as of July 10, 2019 was 11,390. Estimate was made and voted upon at a meeting called for this purpose. Estimate is true to the best of our knowledge and belief of the pains of penalties of perjury. Very truly yours, local licensing authority.
I would so recommend.
Chair would entertain a motion to accept the figure.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Mr. Marcy, seconded by Mr. Sigenovich. Any questions or
No,
concerns?
just to make note that we are over the 11,000 mark officially for residents.
So that's,
It's been that way since 2010. 11,390 is the number I
It was 10 something.
so that's just, that's,
What's that?
That's taken into consideration, so it says temporary, it's making summer
Yeah,
residents.
so that, exactly, they're looking for a big swing in summer residents, which then gives the state the ability to issue seasonal licenses for that period of time, even a year. Not really applicable here, but we still have to go through the exercise of approval.
So we get a motion, second, also?
All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Need to sign. Next up is the non-renewal, renewal certification, 2019, we already made mention of the 3 businesses.
I'm going to move that we approve that document as we received this copy.
Motion
Which,
made by-
was this in the whole packet or just our packet?
It should be, it's public knowledge, so anyone who wants it, it will be available.
Okay.
Motion made and
Second.
seconded. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Next up is a email from town administrator, sent to the board of selectmen. Greg, would you like to?
Yeah, let me first talk about the snow and ice account under item 9E. So, Mr. Chairman, the snow and ice budget requires your approval to deficit spend the account. To date, the sum of $102,025.15 has been spent. The budget is $95,000, so we are allowed to overspend the account. You will need to approve it, and the FAA also needs to approve it. I did a quick calculation while we were before the meeting, and of the total expenditures to date, $97,329.86 is materials and equipment, such things as plow blades and tires. So only a small portion of what we spent to date is labor, and this is pretty typical that we stock at the beginning of the season with as much material as we possibly can, and we'll see how the rest of the year goes. So, the budget for snow and ice has increased incrementally in the time that I've been here, and I'm hoping when I'm not here that we still continue to increase this budget between $5,000 and $10,000 a year, so that we don't run a deficit at the end of the year. So I would ask you to so approve.
Motion will be accepted to approve the highway department request to overspend snow and ice account.
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Mr. Sigenovich, second by Mr. Marcy. Any further questions for the administrator? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks.
Next up was the email I just referenced for your Central Mass Regional Planning Council. Mr. Town Administrator.
So we are looking into a grant application under the Community Development Block Grant Program. And as part of that, we've had some very productive discussions, the planner and I, with Central Mass Regional Planning Commission. Central Mass Regional Planning Commission will put together a grant application for the town. The likely projects are funding for assistance with some of our sewer studies in town. As you know, we're going to go through the I&I, and to the extent we can get that paid for, or a portion of it paid for through grants, that's what we want to try to do. So Central Mass Regional Planning Commission asked the town sign a memorandum of agreement, which basically says that they'll put together the grant application on our behalf, and if it is funded, and only if it is funded, we will have them administer the grant funds. The cost to the town is $0, so that if the grant is awarded, there's a portion of it that's there for administration, and those grant funds will be used to pay those administrative costs. I'm hopeful that we get funding. The deadline is March 1st, and these projects typically would begin sometime in the spring of 2020. So it's a ways out, but we want to be able to put a good foot forward in terms of making an application for grant funds, and I would ask you to so approve.
Mr. Marcy?
Greg, what other strings come with this? Every time we
No.
have to see this, I want
No,
to
really not.
say, I've said it.
No, really not.
All right.
None. I mean, we're in competition with 280 communities. But
That's all?
if we have a good project, they'll fund it.
Chair will entertain a motion to accept it as presented by the town administrator.
I do.
Motion by Mr. Joseph.
Just the chair signs.
Motion by Mr. Joseph.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sigenovich. Any further discussion or comments? I'd like to say, my only comment is I like it when it's a zero cost.
Right. I always ask.
I like it better when there's no strings attached.
Those two together can't be beat.
Yeah, thank you. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Board member comments, Mr. Joseph.
Nothing.
Nothing, Mr. Joseph, Mr.
Oh, no, that's not right.
Oh,
Damn.
I tried.
Number one,
I really tried.
wish everybody in Dudley, friends and foes alike, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, and a happy and safe and healthy New Year.
Mr. Marcy.
Ditto what Mr. Joseph just said, and I think this is our last meeting for the year, so let's hope 2019 is a great year for Dudley. Thank you, everybody.
Mr. Siganovich.
I'd like to reiterate what Mr. Joseph and Mr. Marcy said. I'd also like to say that 2018 has been a good year in town. We've gotten a lot of things done. We're in a better community now than we were at the beginning of the year, and I hope that continues through 2019.
Okay, I also like to add Merry Christmas to everybody, Happy New Year. My daughter's birthday is New Year's Eve, so we have extra reason to celebrate this season. On a good note, I'd like to publicly thank Chief Wayner for the job he did with the Mass State Chief Police, the Chiefs Association. He represented the town well. Fire and EMS, I'd like to publicly thank Dean Kochanowski. His department is exemplary with their work. Call volumes up. There was an issue in the past, missed call. We don't have that anymore. Both departments run well. Thank the highway department for all they do, water and sewer for all they do. It's been our last year to thank the town administrator for all he's done for us and the level of professionalism he provides us every day. Thank Michelle, who does more than most people ever know, can appreciate. And I thank my fellow board members for a good 7 months that I've served as chairman. I think we've had a pretty good year. I'll take no small part in that. I think we have a good board, a lot of strengths. Everybody plays off each other.
You left out the most important person.
Teddy and Fred for all they do. They make sure things run smooth so people in town that can't make a meeting, they know what's going on.
Yep.
And who did I miss? Oh, that goes without saying.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, no, I couldn't do it. That's right. As Mr. Joseph said, we all have people in our lives. We all have people in our lives who have to make the same sacrifice we do, including the paid full-time staff.
Thanks, everybody.
Mr.
And
Chairman?
last but not least, wasn't gonna forget, hopefully we have a good, clear, crisp color on our student rep who matched his shoes, shoelaces, and sweater tonight.
Socks too.
And his socks are quite festive. And I'd like to give the last 2018 report from student rep, Mr. Bailey Bowes.
Thank you. So not much has happened since then. The show fired their holiday festival, holiday spectacular. That went great as always. Boys basketball 1 and 2. They beat Quabbin in their first game, lost to Tantascwa and to Shrewsbury. Girls went into overtime against Holy Name and lost by 6. Wrestling had 2 students. They finished first place in 2 different tournaments. That was Nolan Burke and Ethan Ayotte. And the progress reports came out last Friday, and that's it for this year's report. Yes.
Good call.
Mr. Joseph.
Am I to understand that the show choir had their holiday spectacular and we were not given the opportunity to buy tickets?
I think you mentioned at the last meeting.
They did add another show though,
Right.
so that
Oh.
others could go.
So we missed out on 2 shows. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Hey, there's more coming up. There's more coming up.
They'll be just as spectacular.
Oh, yeah.
So if you have a quota of tickets to sell, don't hesitate to come here.
Yes, I will know now too.
Pat Koch, Library Trustee.
If I could just take a moment to say thank you for joining us here at the Pearle and Crawford Memorial Library. And we've had a really successful year, and I'd like to thank the patrons who have done so much, supported us, and we have a wonderful staff who's really stepped up and is, in light of the fact that we don't have a library director at the moment, they have really pulled together and are doing a great job. We had the last of our Pearl Jam concert series on Thursday. There were over 70 people in attendance. It was really wonderful. And typically for libraries our size, communities our size, there's not much money that's put into the program line of the budgets because it's dependent on finding funds to support programs. And we are fortunate in having awards from the UW and Harriet K. Endowment Fund for the Pearle Crawford Memorial Library. They supported our fall reading programs and also the Pearl Jam concert series. The Dudley Cultural Concert, we have applied for and received grants for other programs. And of course, I have to mention our friends of the library. They have done so much for us. This past year, they have supported or sponsored over 90 programs for us, and there were over 2,800 attendees, youth, teens, and adults. And it's just amazing. We couldn't do it without them. Membership forms are in the back of the room if anyone would be interested. And we certainly hope to see you all at the library this year and next.
And who did we hornswoggle into taking the interim position?
We don't have an interim director at this point.
Who's going to take over calling the shots until we get somebody?
Actually, we have the staff that's been stepping in. Ben Craver has stepped in. He's overseeing the facilities.
That was the name I was looking for.
Exactly. And we have one of our staff members, Tasha Mahan, is serving as the interim office manager. And what she is handling the bookkeeping, payroll, invoice paying.
I will say this, Mr. Chairman, that I don't think anybody's expectations, programmatic expectations, were not met by the library this year. They exceeded everyone's anticipation of how many programs would be held, the range of programs and the quality of them. And I hope that that is an attribute that we will look for in the incoming director.
Absolutely, yes.
It's been a great year for programming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we hope to continue. We certainly do. That's the plan.
I want to add too, thanks to the library trustees and their staff helping set up the room, let us in here. This is our second remote location we do. We've already been invited by the fire chief to next year when they're done, we're going to do one from down there so people can see us from down there.
Is that going to be handicap accessible?
Oh, definitely, it's up to us.
It's all on one floor.
Yeah, it's all new code, that was the whole purpose behind the
We can
remodel.
do that, huh?
I'd just like to add, I have to have the library trustees step up their game a little bit, because the Black Tavern stuffs us with pastry.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know,
Like
something.
mints.
Yeah, mints.
Mints and water.
With that, we'll
No,
move the,
I don't-
oh,
Trying
you
to keep
guys,
our budget
you
line.
I hear you.
Programming.
Departmental communications, fire,
Thank you,
thank you, Pat. Fire and EMS,
fire EMS.
He just went,
We're short, we don't talk long like you guys.
You wish you could.
Hey, so anyway, I've been talking with the administrator, we're losing firefighter Maria Soldier, she's accepted a job with the Auburn Fire Department.
Why?
She wanted to go there.
Is it more hours? Is it better pay? Is it better conditions?
I don't know what the pay is, it's probably a little better, but she wanted to be busier,
it's a bigger department.
yeah, but,
Okay.
I've made the administrators been aware of this since November. We posted the position on December 7th. The posting closes this Friday, so we'll be interviewing candidates for her as replacement to her.
Oh, I'd like to bring her in if she can before she leaves maybe, or after, obviously we're not gonna meet, but Maria, class act, professional from top to bottom, and she was a great addition to the department. We spoke highly of her at her appointment, and she didn't disappoint.
Okay.
Chief Wayne.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you alluded to earlier, the Myopia Hunt Club up in Hamilton last Thursday. If you've never been up in that area for anything, it's really quite a thing to see. I mean, we're talking polo, and we're talking all kinds of things up there. Very exclusive club, but that's where they had the installation of the new president, who's actually from the town of Hamilton. So I took over officially as past president. But again, I want to thank the board publicly for all the support and everything over the last year plus. That was really quite an experience. I'm glad I did it. Learned a lot, traveled a lot, met a lot of people, and did a lot of things. So hopefully I represented the town well and the association well. But again, I appreciate the support of the board and the administrator and everybody else, because that is a commitment that takes you away from your position. And you folks were really there to help me out and support me the whole time. So I just want to make sure I thank you for that.
I don't know about you guys, but I think since he's not going to be on TV as much, I may go through some withdrawal symptoms.
Come on.
I'll send you some I'll send you some DVDs if you need them.
I just hope that comment was caught.
Thank you very much.
Well, we did get a picture of him, with the governor and lieutenant governor.
Lieutenant governor. Well, that's what
That's a good thing.
we were laughing today because I saw the lieutenant governor at the installation the other day, and to a credit to my fire chief friends, there was some, I guess it was a live tree that was there at the place. So it was a fire code issue that they came up with. So the fire chief found something like that. So we had a nice joke about that.
It's always fun here in Dudley.
You must have said you should meet my chief.
Good thing he wasn't here.
If you can't have fun, don't go, right? Thank you.
Greg, anything you want to add to show? Anything good? Paul, you want to do it? Just pull the plug on the drain?
Yeah, I move that we adjourn for the final time in 2018.
Okay.
Motion made and seconded. We're going to also have a happy, healthy, safe New Year, everybody. All of us. Those of us that really pushed it to the limit this past year. We don't want to see any more of that.
We had fun. We had fun this year.
You're laughing now, but you weren't laughing all year.
Nope.
Motion made and seconded by unanimous consent to adjourn for the final time.
That's it.
Done.
Aye.
Aye. Carrie wants to stay.
Thank you, everybody. Okay.